So sit comfortably with your back as straight as you can, your chin tucked ever so slightly, your hands resting in your lap and your feet on the floor. And take one deep breath with each ring of the bell to begin. You can already tell how just those 3 breaths begin to settle you, because you pay attention to that sustaining ring of the bell that continues so long after the last strike. So keep that settling and that attention. And first turn your attention on your breath, imagining your attention like a light, and in this case, we'll start with a flashlight that shines just on your breath. Just feel as your belly rises as you breathe in, falls as you breathe out, and you feel all the details of that breath. The cool air that comes in your nostrils fills your lungs, feels as though it's going all the way down into your belly. And your exhale has been warmed by your lungs. You feel that warm air leaving your body. There's such a slight pause before the next breath begins. Because your lungs are empty, they start to just open and fill with almost no effort. Just to help it along, you feel your belly rising. And then the same with the out-breath. When you've stopped breathing in, the breath just seems to naturally begin to leave. And you don't need to try and control your breath. But I like to think of it more as just seeing that breath to the end. So you don't need to struggle to push all that last bit of air out, but just complete that breath so that most of the air has left your lungs. It's a good practice in just beginning and ending things over and over. And some of that has to do with attention. You may notice if your thoughts go elsewhere, you kind of breathe just halfway down or 20% into your lungs. Those short, quick breaths. But as your mind slows just a little and settles, your body settles, and your attention grows a little stronger, you follow through to the end of the breath in and follow through to the end of the breath out. Not trying to control that breath, just letting it be. And being aware that paying attention to it and settling may change it all on its own. So stay with that breath for a moment. Belly rising as you breathe out, belly falling as you breathe out, belly rising as you breathe in. And thoughts will come. You'll have things both internally and externally that kind of float by. Thoughts, a muscle twitch, an itch. Here we hear the clock ticking on the wall above us. Occasionally a line of school children or daycare children from the basement of this building run by and we hear their laughter. And you don't need to push those away. You're aware of those in the same way you're aware of the breath. You just note them. We let everything come in, not trying to stop it or push it away. Not saying, I'll take this, that I'll push away. We open up to all of it. But the flip side of that is also not hanging on to it. We don't do that with a breath. We don't think that was a really good, slow, deep breath. I'm going to just stop now. We don't have time to. We just move on to the next breath and the next. Our belly rising as we breathe in, and falling as we breathe out. And thoughts in particular are the tricky things. It's so easy to get involved in them, which kind of gives them fuel to continue on. We can do that in so many different ways. If it's a pleasant memory or a pleasant thought, we just keep it alive. We really get caught up in sketching out all the details of that memory or the plan we have. Or if it's an anger or a fear, we get so caught up in trying to push it away or getting caught up in the feeling of it. What we want to do is, like the breath, like those sensations in the body, we let the thoughts come and go also. So many people come to this practice and think it's about stopping their thoughts. I don't know of anyone who does this who's ever been able to completely stop their thoughts. Sometimes they can quiet them. Focusing on the breath lets your attention go to where there's not too much to comment on, unless you want to analyze each breath. But again, we don't have much time for that. We don't hang on to the breath as being a good one or saying that last one was really poor, or I did a poor job of paying attention. We just move on to the next. If our mind has wandered and gotten too caught up in a thought or a feeling, then we can kind of wake up again to what our intention was, which was to just begin with watching the breath. There again, we don't have time to berate ourselves, to say we're a bad meditator, that we have no attention. We just go on and return to the breath again. It's so simple. No judgment. As there's no judgment of the breath, there's no judgment of the effort we're making. No judgment of the thoughts. No judgment of how we're sitting. Again, if we feel ourselves slouching, we just straighten that back out a little. And perhaps note that straightening that back, again, focuses our attention, settles the mind, settles the breath. And we continue breathing in and breathing out. And as I said, we're paying attention both to the internal and the external, the thoughts, the sensations. We could call the sensation of just our bodies, knowing that they're seated in this chair, kind of knowing the limits of our body, that everything within that we think of as internal, we think of as who we are. And all the rest of it is that world outside. And yet that ticking of the clock, when it falls upon our ears and we take it in and become aware of it, we see that there isn't so much of a firm boundary between what's inside and what's outside. We become that ticking. We become the fan blowing. We become the children's laughter. And in opening to that, we can kind of focus our direction or turn towards the greater world, to this world and all the beings in it. We had talked before doing this about some research that seems to indicate that doing mindfulness or doing meditation can cause us to focus more on anxiety or depression. I've always tried to be very careful about that because many of those of us who get together to do this have anxiety or have depression. And I think it's important to remember we're not all alone. It's when we're feeling we're alone with our thoughts, with our griefs, with our worries, with our anxiety, that we feel as though it's weighing so heavily on us. But feeling that we take the outside world in with each breath, with hearing or smelling, feeling this chair that we sit in. There's not as firm a boundary between within and without as we like to think. And even doing this, we don't do it alone. One reason I talk through these and don't give a lot of time to silence is that we have time to practice silence on our own. But again, also knowing that the thoughts of depression or anxiety can become so loud, it helps to have another voice to remind you that you're not alone in it. We're also not alone in this moment because there are 5 of us sitting around a table in this room. We do this together. It might seem we're each isolated, but we're joined in this breathing, in choosing to come here and be here. And anyone listening to this recording can feel you're a part of that also. And if you do go to your room or to a park and practice this alone, again, you can remember that you're doing this with us. You're doing it with all the people in your life. You're doing it with the clouds and the earth and the clock ticking. And if it all becomes too much, even knowing that, you can reach out and share that. Just say, I was sitting quietly last night and I just became filled with grief or fear or worry. You can hopefully be able to share that a little more easily because you've practiced seeing it in yourself without judgment. I think it's that judgment that we put upon ourselves, thinking I'm wrong to feel this way, I'm wrong to think this. And we just say, this is just a part of being human. Phones ring too, and that's all right. But that's part of being, as all other people are, caught up sometimes in grief and worry. This life can be difficult sometimes. We, again, don't have to feel that we're going through it alone. And if we begin to accept that and not judge ourselves, we're likely to be able to share that more freely. Perhaps without worrying what other people are going to think, or perhaps without caring what other people think. We grow more comfortable with our thoughts and our emotions when we're not judging them. And we don't need to worry about what other people think about us. It's helpful for me to remember that I worry so much about people and what they think of me if I said something oddly the other day, or that good old classic, putting your hand out to shake someone's hand and they aren't going to shake your hand and you pull it back quickly. You could spend the whole rest of the day thinking they must have thought I was such a fool. But it helps in times like these when I can just pay attention to my thoughts and realize so few of them are focused on other people. If someone does that with me, I don't spend the rest of the day thinking about they were so foolish to do that. And that helps me think that probably the other people are not thinking that way about me. Again, loosen that fear, that worry, so that I begin to not care so much or not worry so much. Again, that feeling of fear keeps us isolated and separate. Letting go of the judgment of ourselves and others lets us see we're just all human beings making similar mistakes with similar feelings, similar thoughts, and reaching out or just being aware of the presence of others. You know, I always say that we all feel so close because before we do this practice, we talk about what's going on in our lives. And I know everyone here intimately in that way. But I also know them and what it's like to just sit quietly together. And that can be as strong as how we know each other from what we share. I feel it the most when we ring the last bell or do some deep breaths and we all open our eyes and have that fresh new look about ourselves, a little more peaceful, a little more relaxed, calm, and often with a smile on our faces. That too is something we share. The presence and the calm, the settled feeling and the joy. So 2 thoughts to end. If in doing a practice like this you begin to feel too isolated, reach out to other people. Find someone that can do this with you. Just having one other person sitting in a room with you can be huge. And you also get to support each other. We've been doing this now for I don't know how many years, 6 or 7. And there's some value in just thinking, well, everyone else is going to show up. I might not feel like it too much, but I'll go there today too. So you can reach out to others, or you can just feel your connection, realizing that you're not alone, that you're just another human being, as we all are. All beings joined together. We'll finish with one bell, and as that bell begins, take 3 deep breaths, and then when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes.
That would be one of my favorite ones you've done.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah.